Alright, here's an Arvin 5-tube radio. Let's see. This is a model 450 TL with a RE281 chassis. It's from about 1950. This is one of the radios I picked up at the Hamfest in that lot of radios. So anyway, just a regular AM broadcast, little 5-tube set. So let's see what's going on with it. Let's fire it up and see if it smokes. Well, we got a bad, sound like we got a bad filter cap. Well, it sounds like it's picking up a signal. Since we only have one AM station on the air nowadays, that's all we're going to pick up is that. It's like the dial cord needs some attention. Alright, let's pull it apart and see what we got to work with. And here's the chassis. Looks like we have no shortage of dust in this thing. Pretty much covered inside. All the tubes and all that are all covered in dust, and here's a capacitor here that's covered in dust and dirt here. There's the cabinet there, which is in pretty good shape. It's one of the reasons why I bought these radios, is cosmetically these things are in pretty good shape. So anyway, yeah, there's no shortage of dust bunnies in this thing, and looks like underneath we have pretty much all of our original, or most all of our original paper caps. Very old replacements at best. Looks like we got a mixture of mica mold brand and Tiger and Cornell Dubilier branded capacitors in here. So yeah, these things will need to go. And there's our replacement filter capacitor, which looks like one from the 50s or 60s. Looks like a Arco Blue Seal capacitor. One of those dry electrolytic cardboard deals. I don't see a date code on it, or at least one that I can read. That looks like a part number there. Arco Electronics. Alright, I have removed the old electrolytic capacitor, which is here. And the black's going to be our ground. So I put a terminal strip in here and soldered it down to the base here, but on this particular application you can't use the chassis as ground. So well, I believe this one's got a floating ground, so we're going to go from when you use the black wire as your ground, of course, and then all of our other 3 points are going to be our capacitances. We're going to install individual capacitors. This is a 47 that will work for the 40 microfarad side. The original capacitor, well, this isn't the original, but this is a replacement. The original capacitor was a 20, 20, and 40. This is a 20, 30, and 40. So anyway, we'll go back with a 47 and 222 microfarad caps. Alright, so I just moved the dial around on this thing and the dial cord broke on it, so it looks like I'm going to be restringing this dial. Oh boy, how lovely fun that's going to be. Alright, after about pulling my hair out, I finally got this thing restrung. Tuner moves all the way through and down and back up. With this one, you just got to keep a lot of tension on that cord, because what it'll do is, once the gang is fully closed, it don't want to lift that gang all the way back up without slipping, unless you got a good amount of tension on that cord. Really got to have a lot of tension on it. All right, lots of components that were out of tolerance. Pretty much ended up replacing just about all the resistors in the audio circuit, and capacitors, and these 470K grid bias resistors are always out of whack. 47 ohm here, so I'm just kind of working my way back this way, and this is what I've gotten done so far. So we're still working on it. Filter capacitors replaced, all that's done, so we're just working our way with the capacitors and resistors from the audio section back to the front end over here. Alright, I've gotten the receive pretty hot, and of course you're hearing the squeal of the camera, and there's some popping coming in there every once in a while, some sort of interference. It's not any SMD or anything. Yeah, I'm gonna have to shut this camera off. It's interfering too much. Well, I'll just turn the volume down. This thing is picking up a radio station about 45 miles away that I've honestly never picked up before. Like I said, most of these stations are about 1,000 watts. Classic rock station. I've never picked this one up before, and so this receive in this thing is doing pretty well. Yeah, that's my radio behind me. That's that crackling interference I'm getting. I'm not exactly sure what that is. But here's the deal. Of course, you got the squealing camera. It didn't do that until I turned the camera on. This IF can has a loose connection, and I believe it's probably a bad capacitor inside of it that's, you know, starting to get loose. These cans are the slug type. They look like a variable capacitor with that metal screw that comes out of the top of them, but they actually go down into slugs down inside, which is in a paper wound. They really started cheaping out on IF cans in the early 50s, but these rattle, which is who these are made by, are just crappy. They went to the trouble of making a porcelain base and a porcelain top, but then they make the center out of cardboard and wrap the wire around it for the transformer. And then the you know, you've got your normal caps in here with the mica sheet that are going bad because they're right below this hole right here and they're exposed. So these are probably going to have to be recapped. I'm just going to recap this one for now, and I'm going to do as minimal as I have to, meaning if I can, I believe I can service this can while it's in the radio, and I'm not if I don't have to take it out, I'm not going to. Alright, we're picking up the same classic rock station, and I just cannot keep the camera noise out of this thing. As soon as I turn the camera on, that squealing comes in there. So anyway, we're definitely within tunable range. I mean, like as far as reception. And we're not dropping out. So I wish I could get rid of that camera noise, but I can't. So
they sit at 3-1 on the season off their first loss.
we are picking up all kinds of other stations. There's our Hispanic station. If I can pick that up, the radio's doing pretty good. But we recapped it, and we're not having any dropouts, so that's good. So I think it was just the capacitors, you know, that mica sheet that was really dark black in there. Here's one of those mica sheets here that even with the little pin leg on it was still corroded up underneath. So this is how bad that mica looks. So yeah, it should be whitish silvery color. It should not be black. Alright, we finally made it through to the end of it. And I got all of our resistors and capacitors replaced in this thing, and it was quite a job. A lot of resistors are way up in value, and a lot of caps in this set, and so we got them all replaced. And there's a lot of new, and there's still a few old resistors in there. The old resistors tested fine, so we left them in the circuit. But other than that, we replaced everything we needed to. And one thing that was interesting was this whole little network of capacitors here, and did double check everything in the schematic, and it wasn't something that was it could have been something that was added later, but I just found this kind of an odd setup, but it's actually in the schematic that way. So that 330 ohm or 330k resistor rather, being parallel with that cap like that, but that's the way it was supposed to be, so that's the way we did it here. We did it with a safety cap because it deals with the across the line capacitor and all that. So got that done. Had to replace this 1200 ohm 1 watt resistor here, and this 120 ohm here test right at 120 ohm. So we got that, left that alone. But here's our parts pile here. Got quite a few resistors and capacitors there that were taken out and retired. So anyway, filter cap changed, and everything else I've already pretty much showed you in the video. We had to recap this one IF can, which was the second IF can, and so you know, this first IF can seems fine. I'm not touching it. I don't want to have to take that out if I don't have to. So anyway, we'll hook her up and let her play, and I'm gonna get some of these little drops of solder out of here, because I know some people would just cringe at that. Alright, got it all back together. Really pleased the way this turned out. It seems to have a very good receive for a standard 5-tube set. Either that or we're just having exceptionally good conditions today, but I don't think so. I think this thing just turned out really well, and it performs really well. There's that station, but of course with the camera you can't hear it. That rock station.
The days are coming. By and by, I know something. surge of the U.S.-Mexico border and a surge in illegal immigration into the United States. Surge in illegal immigration to the U.S. That's what they want.
That's another one of them 1,000-watt stations about 45 miles away. And of course, we got the one up the street blaring in.
I think wherever they came from. So I think that that's a nice reason to come here to try to give your family a better life.
And normally we only
They don't want to be
pick up the 3 local, but this one's doing a really good job, and I think I'm gonna follow up and say that I made a call to the local station, the local company around here that runs most of the radio stations in this town. 2 out of the 3 AM stations are run by this company. I'm not gonna name them, but they've got 1290 and 1240, and I sent them an email the other day and notified them that asked them what was going on with 1240. I hadn't heard it on the air about a week. And then I also asked them, did they discontinue the simulcast on 1290 AM of 93.3? And they told me that 1290 was still broadcasting, and 1240 they would check into 1240 and see what was going on, but that most people around here listen to that on 105.9 FM. Well, you know, I'm not most people. So my question is then, if most people listen to stuff on FM, why do they even have the AM stuff on the air? You know, I mean, I'm not complaining, I'm glad they do. But, you know, evidently these people care nothing about the AM broadcast side of the band with their stations, because they're still claiming a station is still broadcasting that went off the air 3 months ago. You know, 2 or 3 months ago it went off the air. And, you know, this is supposed to be the, you know, guru, the manager guru of all the stations. I mean, when do you ever turn a radio on to listen to make sure your transmitters are still transmitting, you know? I mean, that's what I've got to say about that. I mean, any guy that was supposed to run or even work at a radio station that has no idea if they're, you know, if 1290 is even on the air, you know, months later, not weeks, months later, you know, they could, obviously that tells me they could care less about the AM side of things. And if he still believes that's broadcasting, I'm sorry, he is dead wrong. I live less than 3 miles from that transmitter site, and I haven't heard that on the air in months. So either he's mistaken or they're just idiots and they don't even realize their stations are on the air. So I'm not going to turn this into a rant video, but you know, that's basically the way I feel about it. I mean, you know, you've got these 1,000-watt stations that, you know, you could care less about if they're on the air or not, obviously. So anyway, so hopefully they'll at least get 1240 back on the air, and maybe since I mentioned something about 1290, they'll look into that too.
The book, the Bible, it tells us about the Lord.
That's a 1,000-watt station, but it just so happens to be less than a mile away.
Well, good. When we love God. Listen.
Did you see the pin?
But alright, that's going to do it. That's my 1950 Arvin 450T, not TL, it's just a T. 450T, playing again, looking good. I believe I'm going to put this one in my personal collection. Thanks for watching.